Welcome to the Having It All podcast, the show about what it takes to live an abundant, loving life. My name is Matthew Bivens, and each week I'm helping you get out of your head so that you can truly have it all. Let's do it. What is going on, everybody? Matthew Bivens here, and welcome to another awesome, fun, just super cool episode of the Having It All podcast. I'm standing up right now. And that's because I got a new podcast set up. And so I feel like I have just a different amount of energy going on. And hopefully it sounds a little bit better. My intention was to upgrade some equipment, make some changes because the stuff I was using before, the quality was kind of 50-50. And so I wanted to make sure that, you all are constantly hearing crisp, clean episodes. And so that's what I'm doing. And I'm also pretty jazzed up because I'm feeling that life energy today. I'm feeling that abundance for sure. And, I wanted to share a little bit about a recent client experience that I had, which, tons of beautiful lessons and opportunities for growth and all sorts of great stuff. But there's two things that stuck out in particular from this client call that I had that I want to share with you. And I guess lastly, I'm also pumped because this is like episode 90 something. I think this is 92, maybe 93. And when I started this podcast, I said my big goal was to publish 100 episodes. So I'm closing in. I'm in the final 10, and the show is going to continue after 100. It's definitely going to continue. I love producing the show. It's just fulfilling and beautiful on a lot of levels. But when I set out, I don't even know when I started this thing, early last year, that was my goal, 100 episodes. And I gave myself sort of the freedom for this podcast to evolve and shift throughout that 100 episodes. And so where it is today is very different than where it started out, at least in terms of the style of episode. But, 100 plus, here we come. So let's jump into the topic, again, inspired by that client call that I had. And I first just want to give a little bit of background on, what I do. A lot of people will message me and they'll ask me like, what do you do? What are your services and stuff like that? So since this particular episode was inspired by client interaction, I figure it's appropriate. So my background is in marketing. My passion is in podcasting. I have merged the two. And what I do is I help individuals, entrepreneurs, brands, businesses. I help them expand their reach, grow their authority, and identify and connect with their ideal client, their target audience through podcasting. So I absolutely love podcasting. Duh, right? And my background is in marketing. I've been doing marketing since 2010. So what I've done is I've just created this unique service that I offer to people where individuals who it might be an author, or maybe you're a coach, or just an expert. You're a subject matter expert. You're an authority in your industry, and you want to be able to expand your reach. You want to just reach so many more people than you currently are right now. You want to reach a global audience. You want to connect with folks all over the place. You want your message to just, boom, go right into their earbuds, and you want to identify and connect with potential clients. Well, I help people do that through podcasting. And that kind of looks different for different people that I'm engaging with. And with this particular client, we have our awesome client relationship. And one of probably the biggest thing that I do for this client is accountability, right? So I help it's another marketing agency, two individuals. I help make sure that they stay on track with doing what they need to do to grow the business and making sure that they are accomplishing and hitting their goals. Their micro goals, the daily, weekly goals, but also their macro goals. And so we hop on a call once a week and we talk. I have a format, a process, a structure that I take them through, but a lot of it is conversing and just me helping them to kind of put some context around things, help them with ideas and blah, 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 all that stuff. So we were in a call last Thursday. That's when we do all of our calls. and we're just flowing through the normal process of stuff. And, they've been working on attracting some new clients, attracting some higher value clients. And when we got into some updates, they're giving me updates of what went down in the past week. They said, well, our currently highest, our highest revenue client has increased their engagement with us, and they essentially increased the engagement by 50%. So they went from like a $10,000 a month client to a $15,000 a month client. And my client is kind of telling me this, and he says really just casually, and that was we put that intention out there that we wanted to increase our monthly revenue by this amount, and we were able to do it, and so it's really great. And now I'm thinking about who do we need to kind of add to the team to help make sure we can service this client. I'm thinking about the bandwidth of my team's hours, and he just goes on and on and on. And I let him finish. I let him continue talking. And when he was complete, I was like, hey, man, let's go back a little bit. Let's rewind, because what you just told me is pretty significant. And I want to go back because we need to revisit this. What you shared with me is that you set an intention. You had a goal for what you wanted to do with the agency. And you didn't just meet the goal, but you exceeded it. And you did it effortlessly. The client came to you and said, hey, you guys have been doing such a great job. We want to increase our engagement. So you accomplished more than your goal. You did it with little to no effort. And now you get to continue flowing with your business. And it's just, it's happy days going on right now with the agency. But you shared it in such a way that you just kind of glossed right over it. Like it was nothing, and the great thing happened, but now you're focused on, all the stuff that comes with now needing to fulfill it. And so the point of this for you all, for you listening, is that, I shared with him, let's take a minute to celebrate this win. Like, let's take a minute to celebrate the fact that, this client values you so much. They value you so much, and you've been able to drive and generate such value for them that they want to pay you more. They want to increase what they're paying you by 50%. That's huge. That's big, whether or not that was your goal, whether or not that was an intention. It's even bigger because you set that as an intention. You wrote that down. You said, this is the goal I want to reach. You put that out in the universe, and you reached that goal bigger and faster than you had intended. That is huge. That is worth celebrating. And so for you listening, the reason why I bring that up, the reason why it kind of stuck with me and I wanted to jump on an episode and talk about it, was because we do this a lot, myself included. We might set a goal, maybe consciously or just subconsciously. We may not even know that it's an actual goal that we want to achieve, but we achieve something and we're like, oh my gosh, I achieved it. And then we just let it go by. And then you get fixated on all the consequences of that achievement. In my client's case, achieving his goal meant that he now had to figure out the hours that, the additional hours he needs from his team, and he had to start thinking about the onboard process, and he had to start thinking about scheduling. And in our lives, we might achieve some goal, whether it's a tangible sort of like, I want to have this type of thing goal. Let me make this money so that I can go on this trip. Whatever it is, we achieve some goal, and then we get caught up in all the minutia and all the stuff and all the consequences of achieving that goal. And we don't take that opportunity to recognize just how powerful we are in the fact that, holy cow, we hit this goal. Like, I set my sights on something and I hit it. And especially in American culture, we just move at such a fast pace, and everything is next. What's next? What's next? And what's next? What do I got to do? Who do I got to see? What do I got to talk about? Like, everything is just zipping and flying by us that it's so easy to miss the chance to say, holy crap, I did that. Like, I achieved that. I hit my goal. I was able to manifest the thing I wanted to manifest. I was able to overcome that fear that I had. I was able to lose that weight. Like, we get so fixated on the next thing that we don't take opportunity to become present and appreciate where we've come and how far we've come. And so that was a big moment that I wanted to share with my client. And I did, I stopped the conversation, we backed up, and the three of us just recognized how big it was that they hit that goal. And it kind of gave me an opportunity to rep something that I don't do all the time. You know what I mean? Like I said, episode 100 is coming up on this podcast, and I want to make sure that when I get there, I just take a minute and I reflect on the past, year and a half of scheduling interviews, talking to folks, publishing episodes, editing, all the stuff. I want to take a minute to just like, man, you hit that goal. That's dope. That's amazing. And so I want you to be able to walk away from this episode with that. Do you know this? You have my permission to stop and to appreciate, to pat yourself on the back. Like, it's not selfish to do that. It's not inflating your ego to just say, damn, I did a great job. Man, wow, I'm a badass. I'm awesome. Man, yeah. Like, you can do that. You could do that, because I think when you stop, and you appreciate those things, you get greater perspective for what you have accomplished. And I think it fuels you up. It's like if you set a goal of like climbing, Mount Kilimanjaro, you just don't hit that thing in one bound, in one day. You go to like through stages, and you get to a stage and you got to just like shake it off and be like, wow, look at how far I came. That's incredible. And then you go to the next stage and you're like, damn, I just did stage 2. Wow. Like, I'm a lot stronger than I thought I was. And then you keep on hiking and you go to stage 3. You're like, oh my goodness, I never thought I could do that. Like, that's how you want to approach this stuff. Give yourself a pat on the back. So that's the first thing that happened in the call. Now we're continuing our call. We're talking about this new client that they have coming on in the agency, and everybody, I'm asking them the question because I understand. I've been a part of this agency and I've worked with them for a while, and I understand sort of the assets that they have and the resources that they have, the people that they have who could potentially service this client. And what I'm seeing is I'm like, it looks like bringing on this new client, you guys are going to be expected to do more now. Now your workload just went up a little bit. And they're like, yeah, that is the case. In the immediacy right now, our workload does go up a little bit. And then hopefully it gets thinned out later on down the road. So I'm asking them, what is required of you is going up. What are you doing to boost your capacity as well? Because your performance expectations are increasing. You now need to deliver more. You have another client to service. You have more meetings to do. You have more legwork to execute on. That's going up. What are you doing to make sure that your ability to produce is going up at the same rate? And it had them stumped for half a minute. And I'm so happy for them, in this case, that we have these types of calls, that I have these type of relationship with them, because what was in their future without this conversation was something that I've experienced, was something that I can imagine you experience, and it's something that just is like plagues our society as a whole. And it's this idea of our performance does not increase at the same rate as our performance capacity. And now it's put in easier terms if you think of it like the golden egg and the golden goose. Now, this idea is from 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I've talked about it tons on this show, and this is the concept of the P-PC balance. Golden egg, golden goose. So P is your performance. That's the thing that you're producing, right? In this case, it's the golden eggs. The PC is your performance capacity, your ability to actually perform. In this case, that's the goose. So here's the thing. Here's what the agency was doing. Here's what I've done. Here's what you've probably done as well. You try to create and produce more golden eggs, right? Your P is going up. The amount of golden eggs that you want to produce goes up, but your ability to produce those eggs, your performance capacity, doesn't go up at the same rate. What the hell do you think happens in that case? Burnout happens. Stress happens. Dis-ease happens. You're juggling too many things at once. Something is going to come crashing down. So what I was doing with my client is I was making sure that they were increasing their performance capacity at the same rate that they're increasing their performance. They need to make sure that they have the ability to service this client as they take on more and more work. And for them, it could look like bringing on more teammates, bringing on more people into the company. However, I understand that for them, this is unique to this client. That's not something that they're really interested in right now. So they need to make sure that they're taking care of themselves. They need to make sure that they're putting deposits into their own tank. They're making sure there's gasoline in that tank so that the engine can run. Because how often do we need to get somewhere far, but there's no gas in our tank? And we end up trying to force it. We end up trying to grind. We end up trying to hustle, doing all these things that are talked about so freely and just celebrated so much. But at the end of the day, who suffers? We do. Your performance suffers. Your health suffers. Your relationships suffer. And so this was, I think, the big takeaway and the big aha from this conversation that I was having with my client. It's just making sure that as you are expected to perform at a higher capacity, you got more stuff you got to crank out, you've got more deadlines, you've got more. You have to make sure that your ability to do it goes up as well. And it can look like a lot of things. It can look like a whole lot of things. So, in this podcast, I like to keep things in terms of frameworks. We have the Having It All framework, ALL, Abundant Loving Life. We've got all that great stuff. In this context, just for this small conversation we're having about performance and performance capacity, a concrete takeaway for you is you can think of how are you showing up or what are you doing to make deposits in these 5 different areas: physically, mentally, spiritually, socially, and emotionally. The more deposits you make in those 5 areas, the more your tank goes up. That's your capacity going up. Your performance capacity goes up as you make deposits in your physical tank. Physical tank deposits look like exercise. It looks like diet. It looks like drinking 10 ounces of water the first thing you do when you wake up. It looks like taking 10 minutes to meditate or do some yoga or stretch before you jump on the computer or start answering emails. Spiritual capacity, your spiritual tank, what that looks like, maybe you enjoy meditating, maybe you enjoy prayer, whatever it is. Emotional capacity, that's like some detox stuff, like emotional detox, like letting go of some of the things that are happening in the day. That could be journaling, who knows, whatever it is. If you are constantly making deposits spiritually, emotionally, socially, physically, mentally, constantly making deposits in those areas, then your performance capacity is just inching up. And that means you can take on more. You can take on more things. When I talk to people who, they don't necessarily know all the things that I'm doing in my daily life, and when I start describing all these different things that I've got my hands in, multiple podcasts, a bunch of different clients, working with organizations in different capacities, like as I start describing a lot of this stuff, people might ask me like, that's a lot. Like, how do you do so much? Or I'd get burned out or all this stuff. And I say, I've worked very intently and very intentionally on my performance capacity. Because there's a lot of things that I like to do. I get fulfillment out of flexing a lot of different muscles. From creator to entrepreneur to coach to husband to father. I really enjoy those things and I want to be able to show up powerfully in all those areas. So for the past, I don't even know how many years, 4 or 5 something years, I've been very, very intentional about making those deposits. Deposits in my spiritual tank, deposits in my emotional tank, deposits in my physical tank, and so on. So that my performance capacity can go up, so that I'm able to perform at a high level across the board. That's the type of thing that when I'm talking to my client, it's like you want to make sure like your goal is to perform at a high level. I get that. You've already committed yourself to perform at a high level. So your performance has gone up. You got to produce more golden eggs. So what are you doing to make sure that you actually have the energy, the stamina, the drive to produce those eggs without burning out? Huge caveat. You could underline that, bold it, put it in italics, without burning out. Because anybody can just push themselves more. Anybody can just grind and skip sleep and skip meals and stay up and do the meetings. And anybody can do that. But as you do that, that's coming up from a place of force. Force requires resistance. Resistance ultimately, inevitably wins. So at some point, if you're forcing it, if you don't truly have the performance capacity, but you're trying to perform at a high level and you're forcing it to get there, at some point, you're going to burn out. At some point, the resistance will win. And at some point, some form of crash happens. I'm not saying that a crash is going to look like a specific thing, but some type of crash is going to happen. So for you listening, for my clients, for myself, let's make sure that as you are increasing your performance, you're also increasing your performance capacity. Let's make sure that as more and more is expected of you, you are making more and more deposits into your tank, into your love tank, into your spiritual tank, to make sure that you have the energy to be able to fulfill all those amazing roles and perform all those amazing duties that you want to. Because I know if you're listening to this show, then you've got some big visions, big dreams. And I understand through personal experience that one way to help get there is to make sure that you have a full tank. So those were the two big takeaways from my client conversation. Taking the appropriate amount of time to celebrate wins and making sure that your performance capacity meets or exceeds your performance. Those two big things. So I'd love to hear from you on what you thought of this episode. Maybe something resonates with you. Maybe you disagree. Maybe you've got more context or more ideas to add to it. I welcome it all. Maybe you just want to say, hey, what's up? You can reach me in two ways. The first way, MatthewBivens.com. Go to the contact form, leave me a note. That contact form goes right to the top of my inbox. The second way, you can email me personally. My personal email, mattcbivens@gmail.com. I appreciate everybody who emailed me last week. I most likely will do an episode off of a couple of the emails. They were awesome. Just people, being really vulnerable and transparent and bold. And so I really like to, I want to acknowledge them. I'm thinking that I'm going to probably do an episode on those. So stay tuned. We're just inching closer to that episode 100. So I don't know what I'm going to do for episode 100. I know a lot of podcasts do like a big recap or something. I don't know. Maybe I'll just make it like any other episode. Who knows? But one thing I'm putting out there to you all, to you listening, I've been wanting to really get ahead and just, not even get ahead, honestly. I have slipped a few times over the past year and a half and haven't published consistently. And one thing I did when I first started this show is I came out the gate with like 15 episodes already done. So I had a few months of content already completed before ever launching the show. And since then, I've never had more than a handful. So what I am putting out there right now, my intention is to record every single day for the next 30 days. Now, I don't know whether the recording is going to end up on the podcast. It might be a 2-minute thing. It might be a 30-minute thing. It might be on this new equipment. It might be on my phone. But what I want to do is record every day for 30 days. And I'm sharing it with you all so that you can hold me accountable. So thank you for that. I am incredibly grateful for your time. I'm incredibly grateful for your ears and your energy and just tuning in and listening week after week. I'm grateful and humbled, and thank you so much. My name is Matthew Bivens, and here is to you having it all.